Welcome to Remember This with ADHD. Now there's a lot of anime programs I watched growing up, such as Digimon, Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Ranma 1/2, but one I want to talk about today is Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Was originally manga created by Kazuki Takahashi, no relation to the creator of Inuyasha and Ranma 1/2. It was about the adventures of Yugi Muto after he unlocks the spirit of the pharaoh with the Millennium Puzzle. During these adventures, there were some really high-stake games, with some really extreme consequences, which wouldn't be that out of place if you knew this was supposed to be a horror manga. It also had an emphasis on friendship. That is, until they decided to focus on the card game. Taking inspiration from Suede, who's reviewing every episode for the first season of Pokemon, and as of this video, he's up to episode 69. I said episode. And with that inspiration, I'll be taking a look at every episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 1. Who knows, maybe I'll do other Season 1s of different shows I watch, or maybe I'll do Season 2 as well if this goes well. Now, a bit of a disclaimer before I go into this. I'll be going over multiple Yu-Gi-Oh! Episodes in one video, and if it's a 2-parter, 3-parter, or 5-parter, I'm going to be counting them as one full episode. The reason for this is I don't want to have a bunch of 2 to 3 minute videos. I figured it'd be much easier to have it in one video, and while I'll bring up some moments, I'm not going to talk about every time the real life card game is much different than the anime, because that would be beating a dead horse with an even deader horse. Not to mention when it comes to the first season, it usually follows the rules from the beginning of the manga and the original series, so there's that to keep in mind. With these videos, I'm mostly going to be going over the English dub, so names and jokes will be referred to accordingly as possible. The structure for each of these episodes will consist of a summary for the episodes in question, which will be followed up by my overall thoughts, as well as some useless trivia, which will consist of me talking about some, and I emphasize some, other differences between the Japanese and the English dub. So, without further ado,
it's time to duel!
the series begins with Heart of the Cards, which is the basic here are the main characters kind of episode. It starts out with Yugi and Joey playing a children's card game, while Taya explains how to play to the unseen audience, and Tristan too, I guess. After bragging about how he has better cards since his grandfather owns a game shop, which is odd that Yugi is telling them now about it considering he's been friends with them before the episode began, Yugi suggests they pay a visit after school and they might get to see his grandfather's rare card. And of course Kaiba overhears him while reading the best book ever, nothing. The group goes to the card shop where Solomon shows his rare card, the Blue Eyes White Dragon, which as we all know,
there are only 4 of them in all the world!
Kaiba then enters the shop to see the rare card, which he tries to trade and buy off of the old man, but to no avail. The next day, Kaiba sends his goons to take Solomon away, who apparently didn't lock the door, as Yugi and his friends just walk in. Kaiba conveniently calls up the shop to let Yugi know his grandfather isn't feeling well, because he lost off screen, and he needs to be picked up to go home. Kaiba then decides to taunt the old man further by ripping out the Blue Eyes White Dragon he won, despite desperately wanting it in the past scene. Yes, I know it's because you can only have 3 in a deck, but is there any reason he can't just lock it away? And before somebody points it out, yes, I know, in the manga he rips it as revenge to the specific Blue Eyes because that's how we originally lost to Yugi. But here it just seems like, I'm Seto Kaiba, I'm evil. Anyway, Tristan and Taya take Old Man Moto to the hospital, while Yugi and Kaiba have their duel, without almost killing all Yugi's friends this time. For the most part, it's a pretty even battle. That is until Kaiba summons the Blue Eyes White Dragons. But it's not until Yugi remembers through a really oddly specific flashback that he has Exodia in his deck, and he pulls every piece and wins. And I'd be lying if I said this wasn't an awesome scene.
Exodia! It's not possible! No one's ever been able to call him
Exodia! Obliterate!
Sensing the darkness in Kaiba's heart, Yugi uses a mind crush, while Pegasus, who's sitting in a dark room for some reason, hears that Kaiba lost, and that leads us into the Gauntlet is Thrown. The second episode starts with Joey dueling again, only this time he loses to Taya, which considering how well she does in a duel later this season, is really saying something. Joey laments to Yugi he wants to become a better duelist. Yugi suggests he goes to his grandfather for lessons, which seemingly has tired out Joey. Meanwhile, the game watches the Duel Monsters final on TV, which isn't that far-fetched considering they stream championship battles for Yu-Gi-Oh! Here we're introduced to Weevil Underwood and Rex Raptor. Don't worry, the punny names won't stop here. However, I will spoil something about this series. This is the only duel you'll ever see Weevil win, and for some reason the match only takes about 2 turns. And as for Rex, well, poor guy. This duel doesn't set him up to be much of a winner. After the duel is over, Yugi opens up a mysterious package containing stars, a glove, and a VHS tape. And for those of you born after 2008, this is a VHS tape. And on this tape, Pegasus gives a greeting to Yugi for defeating Kaiba and decides to use his shadow game to challenge Yugi, which is on a time limit, but most of it consists of him talking rather than playing. Yugi almost scores a win on Pegasus, but conveniently the time runs out before the final attack hits. And to entice Yugi to come to a big tournament called Duelist Kingdom, he steals his grandfather's soul. Because that seems reasonable. The third episode, Journey to the Duelist Kingdom, begins with Yugi on top of a roof, wondering why Pegasus wanted him in the tournament, while Joey gets a tape from his sister Serenity, which comes across more like she's dying rather than going blind when you listen to her lines.
I'm sending you this video just so you don't forget your little sister's face. It seems like I'm running out of time. So long. Take care, Joey.
We cut to Yugi, who somehow got down from the rooftops and finds a letter in his mailbox containing his official invitation to the kingdom, which to my surprise they made some of these into actual cards. Sure, they have no purpose, but they're kinda cool. The next day, the game talks about how Yugi shouldn't go to the island because leaving his grandfather legally dead is completely fine. But after Joey finds the card talking about money, he gains an interest in entering the tournament. Later on, Joey and Yugi flash back to the first episode of the original series, where Ushio is beating up Tristan and Joey. But he doesn't receive any punishment this time. Instead, he becomes a motorcycle riding cop duelist in the future. After promising Yugi he'll help out, Joey tries to sneak on board the ship to the Duelist Kingdom. After Tristan, Taya, and apparently Bakura sneak on easily, Yugi gives up one of his star chips to let Joey on board. Because they're the two main protagonists, they can't be stopped by a technicality. On the ship, they come across My Valentine. Get it? Who claims she'll crush both of them at the island. Speaking of wasted potential, they also meet up with Rex and Weevil, who are the only two who got nice rooms on a big ship, since they were the top two duelists. You know, considering that most of the duelists are sharing a sleeping space, you'd think one of them would have got robbed in the middle of the night. Anyway, Mai, who is probably the only female contestant in this tournament, runs across Rex and duels him in his room. Yeah, I know, a grown woman going into a high schooler's private room, but this won't be the only time Mai impliedly cradle her ups. Oh, by the way, she beats him easily off screen and gets his room for free. Meanwhile, Joey shows off the cards he traded for, while Yugi gives him the Deus Ex Machina, the Time Wizard, to add to his deck. Soon after, Weevil joins them and asks to see the Exodia cards that beat Kaiba, which he promptly tosses him overboard, leaving Joey to jump in and try to save them, while Yugi tries to save Joey in return. This scene is rage-inducing for fans of the show, myself included, for a couple of reasons. First off, why would you let anyone, let alone this guy, your cards out on a deck of a ship? Why would Joey even jump in after those cards hit the water? You might as well just let them go at that point. With Yugi jumping in after Joey, who's watching Yugi's deck box? And for that matter, where is Joey's deck? Also, why would Weevil toss him away? Considering he likes to be sneaky, why didn't he just run away with them? And not to mention with how rare these cards are, why didn't he keep them? You deserve every loss after this moment, Weevil. Anyway. Taya and Tristan save Joey and Yugi, while the former laments about how he feels helpless to everybody, especially his sister. The fact he has a sister seems oddly surprising to the rest of them. And how long have you all been friends? The next day, who would have guessed it, but after a few hours, the sun has risen, with Duelist Kingdom in sight. Well, for the first 3 episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's actually a fine start. Though the first episode can feel rushed, considering it's 2 arcs forced into 1 episode. These arcs including the first time Kaiba is introduced, and the Def T arc. However, for a basic introduction to the main characters, it's a proper start. As for the Gauntletless Throne, it's a setup episode for the Duelist Kingdom saga, and that's really it. It does introduce to us Pegasus along with Rex and Weevil, as well as give Yugi motivation for entering the tournament, while Joey gets his in Journey to the Duelist Kingdom by introducing Serenity. In that episode, we get a taste of the personalities for the opponents in the tournament. It's all about setting up, and it does its job well, though there were some questionable things cut from the English dub. And I'm not talking about the fact that Exodia came out of a pentagram, or the fact that this scene where Tristan says,
"In another few hours, the sun will rise."
What's that mean?
was really him telling Taya to pee off of the railing. Honestly, this scene could have been cut altogether. The book that Kaiba was reading in the first episode actually had text on it. English text, in fact. And that's going to be a recurring thing in the English dub. Even if the words are in English, it'll be removed because people don't like reading, apparently. Speaking of words, you might notice that the cards look a little bit different than they do in real life. Well, this was due to an FCC regulation about advertising in TV shows, which is weird since this show could be seen as a giant advertisement for the card game. But for all versions of Yu-Gi-Oh!, or at least the non-Asian dubs of Yu-Gi-Oh!, these will be how the cards look. Besides censorship, context also gets changed in the English dub, and one of my biggest problems with episode 2 has to do with this. The flow of the episode relatively remains the same, as Joey wants to become a better duelist, but the English dub implies he just simply wants to become a better duelist, while the Japanese version, he wants to get better in time to win prize money of a local tournament. Even the poster advertisement gets changed in the dub. The original had Celtic Guardian fighting Hercules Beetle, while the dub has Blackluster Soldier battling Harpy's pet dragon. Interesting foreshadowing there. In the Japanese version, during the Rex and Weevil scene, the group actually commends Joey for doing well in the district tournament, while in the dub he's just very tired. Also in the same episode, Pegasus' dialogue with Yugi had nothing to do with ancient Egypt. Well, he was mostly talking about the duel itself, as well as Duelist Kingdom, which Yugi doesn't want to play in, hence why he took his grandfather's soul as motivation. There's a bit where Yugi tells Dark Magician to attack Komori Dragon instead of Dragon Piper, which would have won him the game against Pegasus. And Pegasus reasonably questions why he didn't do it. Also in the Japanese version, Pegasus speaks in gratuitous English, and that is hilarious. And while there's some implications in episode 3, when Rex duels Mai, Rex's prize is to get a kiss from Mai. In the Japanese version, Mai says she'll do anything Rex wants if he wins. Take that how you will. When we meet next time for Yu-Gi-Oh! Yugi gets bugged, Joey has his first duel, and we meet a freaky fish guy.
I am not a freaky fish guy!